Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Gersnet Weekly Podcast. It's Sunday the 25th of... no, it's not. It is Sunday the 10th of March. It's 9:30, and I don't know what day it is, far less what month it is. What I do know is that we played Hibs earlier on today, and that we are now in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. Now, I'm joined today by Bob Fawcett, and he's going to help me talk through the game today and the rest of it. Now, before we get to that, just to remind you that this is the Independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans, where the content is all free. We have a forum, we have articles, social media, history archive, and we would encourage you to subscribe and to get the podcast. In recent times there's been 3 of these a week, so there's a fair bit of content there. Now, on tonight's show, we'll obviously be looking back at the match. This feels like one of these post-match pods. We kind of feel we should be standing outside Easter Road doing this. We're looking back at tonight's match. We'll talk about John Lundstrom, who's once again showing his value to the team. We'll talk about Jack Butland and does he have an Achilles heel in his distribution? We'll ask why are all our wide players getting injured. Who do we want in the semi-final? And if we have time, we'll have a look ahead to the Benfica match. Now, before we do all of that, and before I bring in our guest, I have to talk about our sponsors, Forrest Precision Engineering, a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company with they've been a big personal supporter of Rangers, and we're delighted they're back in the podcast this year. So you can find out more about them at forestprecisioneng.com. What might be of more interest to you, though, is the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, which is a stunning hospitality area within the main stand. And if you want to book that, which you can, and if you want to find out more about that, then contact the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. So we had a kind of last minute change with guests tonight. When Frankie told me there was going to be a change, I have to say I did wonder if it was maybe going to be Kate Adie who was going to be joining us tonight, such was the brutality of Hibs at times today. Anyway, it turned out to be Gersnet's very own Kate Adie, Bob Fawcett. Bob, how are you this morning? Or this afternoon, or this evening, or whatever time of the day of the week, month of the year it actually is?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. It's been a nice chilled day. Took the wife out for a nice Mother's Day kind of lunch with the kids, and got back to watch the football. So it's all good. Rangers won, semi-final of the cup, and a happy wife. What more can be said? A good Sunday all round.
Indeed. I had to keep pointing out to my wife, "You're not my mother. Take it up with the kids. I'm watching the football tonight, so and then I'm doing the podcast later." So I'm glad you've got a happy wife. Well, one of us does. Anyway, I am happy. You are happy. We're into the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and let's be honest, what looked like a banana skin, I think. It's a game that had potentially something to kind of maybe not derail our season, but certainly had potential with coming off the back of a hard away fixture in Europe. But these games are always difficult. I think the first game back after that. So I think the biggest surprise for me today was when I saw the lineup. I'd been texting some people beforehand. I was talking to my cousin, and I'd said to him, I said, "Look, I could see Davies coming into the starting lineup, and maybe McCrory might even start in goals. Can definitely see Jack and Raskin starting. Roof, maybe McCausland's definitely going to come back into the team. I wonder if that young lad McKinnon might get a start. So to find an unchanged 11, and I don't know if it is, but it feels like for the first time that we've actually gone with an unchanged 11. That was a huge surprise to me. David, what did you think? Robert, what did you think when you saw the lineup tonight?
I think, like everybody else, probably a bit of surprise as well. Clement has had a habit of rotating things recently, and I think everybody expected it, especially when you saw the way that some of the players were leaving the pitch on Thursday night. A few of them looked really, really leggy. I thought that Balogun would probably have come in for Suter, especially with Thursday coming up, because it was maybe a good idea to give him some minutes in his legs if there was a way that he was going to be playing that game.
I don't think Balogun's in the squad, though, is he? I don't think he's in the Euro squad.
Oh, he's not. Yeah,
but to be fair, I actually thought I thought he might come in as well, just because he's not going to play in Europe. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, there's a chance he's going to have to start playing domestic games more. So I actually thought he would come in. I thought Davies might come in as well.
Yeah, well, I think it also highlights where we are. Unfortunately, you look at what happened in the game. Our sub then had to be subbed off injured in McCausland. So it's I think as a squad we are down to the bare bones, and I think Clement mentioned it in his post match that he knew that there was going to be a lot of changes made during the game. So I think he probably anticipated bringing players off to rest them once we'd maybe got the lead and he felt that the game was safe enough. But again, we're going to come on to it. But a couple of those starting, picking up little knocks. It's making it tough for us at the moment, and Clement has continually said that he's lacking players that are going to be able to play 3 competitive games a week. At the moment, I think it is a squad that is kind of being stuck together by some elastoplast and bandage around some of these players just to get them to play.
Absolutely, I think there's. I was very surprised he didn't bring in fresh faces, particularly in certain areas, because there's obviously some key players in that team, and I was really surprised that he didn't take today to kind of use the squad, because there's players, guys like Jack coming in, guys like Raskin coming in. It's not really weakening the side. I mean, Raskin hasn't had a great season for us, but it's not a massive weakness. It's not like you're bringing in rookies. I still think Jack's actually a very good player. His problem is he can't play enough football. And the amount of football we're playing just now, I just wonder if Clement in his mind has got, let's get to the international break. Let's just get through this, get to the international break. Guys can have time off then, we can work in them, and hopefully that's, because to be fair, there's not too many of our guys going to be going away for international football, I wouldn't have thought. I think the kind of core of the team, if you like, isn't, Lundstrom, Tavernier, Suter probably will go away. Hopefully he'll pick up a slight knock in the last couple of seconds of the Dundee match that, it's going to keep him out for about a week. That would be my hope just now. It's not like they're important games, Scotland games. So anyway, look, the game started as as we kind of expected. Hibs pressurising us, closing us down. They were. It was clearly a cup tie, and I think the only thing that surprised me a little bit about it was how poor the Hibs support was. I was really quite surprised that the place wasn't sold out. But anyway, there you go. So it a wee while, but the first goal came. A lovely run from Sterling, brought down, penalty awarded. So let's start with that as our kind of main talking point, if you like. Penalty decision, was it correct?
I think when you've got a defender that is, trying to get a co-carry off of the attacking player, then it's a penalty every day of the week. And I really failed to understand what some of the commentators were watching. If you happen to have the misfortune of watching it on Viaplay, it's as clear a penalty, I think, as you could give. Sterling's made a great run into the box. He's got the right side of the defender, caught him on his heels a little bit, and makes it difficult for that defender to try and play the ball. And the defender just bundled him over. I don't know what argument you could have around that not being a penalty. I mean, it's we joked about it before we came on air. It's a sad day when the voice of reason in the commentary and analyst team is Neil Lennon talking about a Rangers penalty. And I think that really sums it up. So I don't think that you could debate that at all. It was a clear penalty, and it was indicative of all the good work that Sterling's been doing on the right hand side. He's not a natural winger, yet he continues to find ways to be effective from that position. And it's the second time that he's been brought down for a penalty in a similar type of circumstance with that powerful running forward. So yeah, for me, penalty all day long. If it was the other way around, it was a Rangers defender, I'd be raging, because I'd be questioning his position and why you would be kind of been stupid enough to get yourself into that position at that time. So
it was great. It was great play from Sterling. He used his power, his speed to get beyond the defender, and then at that point, only one of two things was going to happen. The defender was going to realise he was going to give away a penalty and back out, and allow Sterling either a shot or a cross or whatever, certainly space and time in the box to do what he chose, or else he was going to foul him. There was no other possible options there, and he chose to foul him. I don't think he meant it. No, I mean, it wasn't like he dived in and everything, but he absolutely fouled him. It was just incredible that anybody who's actually paid money to talk about the game would in any way think that was. I mean, even the Hibs players didn't complain about it. I mean, just ridiculous. And I have to say, and this is a tip, but I give this to everybody, and I say this to you as somebody who did this. At that point, just shortly after, I was watching the game with my two sons, and we just simply turned the volume right down. And honestly, it made not the slightest difference to the enjoyment of it, because the fact that you couldn't hear the crowd, there wasn't much of a crowd then anyway, so the fact you couldn't hear the crowd wasn't anything. The commentator, not that bothered, but you didn't get to hear Michael Stewart talking utter nonsense. It was just, it was a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, for me, if you look penalty up in the dictionary, there's a picture of that. It was just absolute clear-cut penalty. I don't understand what colour of glasses you'd have to wear to think that was in any way anything but a penalty. The penalty itself, upstart Tav, I'd read a thing earlier that he could become the highest scoring defender in British football history or something like that. Some amazing stat, something something to be very, very proud of. But the moment I read that, I thought, he's going to miss his next penalty. And sure enough, it wasn't his best. Keeper did well to save it, but it wasn't his best. But John Lundstram just appeared from the masses, and it was just desire that got him to that ball. I don't know which part of his anatomy he actually scored it with. I don't know if you've studied John Lundstram's anatomy at great length, Bob, but I'm not entirely sure which part of his anatomy he scored it with, but I don't care either, because he got it into the net, and I think it was indicative of John Lundstram since Clement has come in. He was first to the ball. He was first to react. He showed tenacity. He showed reading of it, and he showed a desire to be there. And he'd a funny game on Thursday night. I thought there was times on Thursday night he looked absolutely superb, and then there was times when he just was passing the ball to the opposition. I was screaming at the television. Tonight he wasn't. He wasn't up against as good a team as Benfica. And that probably helps as well. But I thought tonight he was back. He was imperious at times today. He's out of contract in the summer. If you were Clement just now, if you were a director of football just now, or whatever we call him, would you be working very hard to keep John Lundstram at the club, or do you think the fact that we've not heard about a contract being offered, there's not even been rumours or suggestions about it, do you think that's an indication that we're actually fairly, we're happy or we're resigned to him leaving? What do you think the situation there is? And if it was your choice, Robert, what would you do?
So I think first of all, for me, contract renew all day long. I think since Clement has come in, you only hear the way that he's spoken about him as a player. He views him as a leader on the pitch. He's one of the manager's trusted individuals when they step over that line to make sure that the game plan that they've set out is going to be delivered upon. His performances have been great in the most part since Clement has come in, and you're right. That word desire was shown by him getting whatever part of that body to that ball tonight to kind of get that ball turned over. I think Lonnie himself has said a number of times that he loves the club. He loves playing his football at Ibrox in front of us as fans.
He seems to have gone native. He seems to have gone native. I've heard a couple of people say that he's, and I think Goldson's another one, Tav's another one. They're settled.
Yeah.
Their families like it here. Their children are settled.
Yeah.
They're settled. They like the football. They like the club. They don't. There's not a desire to leave. That's what I've heard, certainly.
But the thing you've got to look at as well, so it's the same with Butland. Butland and Lunny played in the Premiership. They played in the Championship as well. They've probably got enough money sitting in the bank to be comfortable for the rest of their life. And as a footballer, for me, you either play for money or you want to then go and win cups and leagues and play in Europe. And I think when you come to a club like Rangers, certainly a lot of the English players that we get, they understand that Rangers are a big club, but they don't realise it until they set foot through Ibrox. They see the marble staircase. They understand the passion that the fans have got for the club, and that becomes infectious because they know that they can play in front of 50,000 fans at Ibrox every couple of weeks. They're going to get followed across the world in droves by the fan base, but they've got regular European football. They've got the opportunity to win trophies on a regular basis. Before, that was the driver that brought him here, to win trophies. Yeah. And that in itself can be a massive pull. So, I think from my point of view, absolutely, I don't think it should be in any debate now on John Lundstram. I think we sign him up, we get him renewed. Ultimately, it's got to be the right club, the right deal for both the club and the player. So there will be some negotiations going on behind the scene, and it really is just a case of, I think he wants a bit more than probably what's on the table, because he feels that he's now one of the more valuable players. And if you believe some of the wage and the salaries that go about online, Ben Davies is getting more than him. So as a player, he's probably looking at that and going, well, actually, I bring a hell of a lot more to this team, so I want parity with him, or I want a bit more. It's all part of the negotiating process, and I think Clement will leave that to the club, but he'll make his feelings clear. I think if we can strike a deal for Lundstram, there's no way that you will not get that off the table. I think it's something that should and will happen. It's just going to be a case of get the football out the way first, and then we can worry about it.
Yeah, you might be right. It's I don't know myself. I can't decide what the plan is there. But it's certainly dangerous leaving it. But we did the same thing with Goldson. And we all thought Goldson was leaving. He signed a contract like 3 days after the cup final or something. We all thought he was leaving, and it turned out not to be the case. Lundstram, what's 30 now? 31, 30. He's still 30, he's still got at least, I would say, if he can keep injury free, he's still got at least a couple of years at the kind of level he's at. I think the only thing that's going against Lundstram just now is the fact that we've kind of seen this before. A couple of seasons ago, he went on that run in the second half of the season when Van Bronckhorst came in and just looked like an absolutely sensational football player. And then the next season, it for whatever reason, it was injury. I don't know if it was tactics. I don't know what it was. But the following season, he was not able to replicate that. And at the start of this season, I didn't hear anybody at the start of this season suggest we should give him a new contract. I think everybody was quite happy for him to run his contract down and leave. In fact, I probably heard more people say we should keep Ryan Jack than we should keep John Lundstram. I don't hear anybody making that argument just now. So I suppose we're all prone to, what's happening just now? What's he contributing just now? Yeah. And you couldn't ask him to contribute any more than he's contributing just now. He is
absolutely, and I'll give him a bit of a pass at the start of the season, because I don't think there's probably many players in that squad that you'd want to keep long term based on some of the performances.
Yeah,
and I think,
and you have to wonder if that was management decisions rather than player decisions, I think.
Yeah, it could well be. I think we've got to look at it on the here and the now. And I think when Clement came in, all the players had a bit of a clean slate with him. And some of them have improved dramatically. Lundstram's not the only person. You look at Ridvan, I don't think any of us would have predicted that at the start of the season based on some of the performances that he put in, the way that he's playing now. And it comes back to what I've said, I think, a couple of times before. that all stems from the belief that the manager's got and is building within each of the players within the squad. You can see that that's a team that's playing together. And tonight was a prime example. Not the prettiest of football. We still dominated possession. We still had the better chances. We've won 2-0 and we got the job done. 4, 5, 6 months ago, that would have been a completely different story. And I think it's that mantra of all we're doing is focusing on the next game and making the players believe that they're going to get the result in that next game is what Clement's done.
Yeah.
So, I think if Lundstram can continue to improve under Clement, then absolutely. Players are always going to go up and down. Goldson's getting a bit of a hard time at the moment because he's not exactly in his most sparkling of form that he's been in. To me, that's just a blip, and I think that we will start to see him improve. Players will go up and down, and I think there's probably been more positives this season than negatives now from Lundstram. The other thing you mentioned it is injuries. Touch wood. I don't want to jinx him, but he's been one of the players that Clement has been able to call upon fairly regularly. And we need that type of consistency from the other players in the squad. And I think Clement mentioned it after the game again tonight. Bringing into question what we've done in pre-season, because there's very few players at the moment that are at the level of fitness that he needs.
Yeah.
Lundstram seems to be one of those players, so you're going to want to make sure that he becomes a mainstay of that team and squad next year.
Yeah. Moving back a bit, Jack Butland had a kind of rare, hairy moment, shall we call it. It was a weekend for goalkeepers being shut down by forwards. I don't know if you saw the Arsenal game yesterday. That it was like a game. It was like a goal from BB football that they conceded. He was getting closed down quite quickly when he had that kind of hairy moment. All our defenders were getting closed down, and that's now something I've seen happen 2 or 3 times against teams. Against teams have now figured out, okay, this is how they play. Right, just don't give them the time. Don't let them pass this out. You close them down, make them hit it. Take our chances winning it, and if they hit it long, we'll take our chances of winning it there. Don't let them play it through midfield, and that seems what's happening now. I think with Butland, his shot stopping is second to none. It really isn't. And I'm asking the question. I'm not saying it. I'm asking the question. Is his weakness with the ball at his feet? Is that where his weakness is? Because it's not apparent, having watched him this season, it's not apparent what weaknesses he has. But maybe against Benfica, 2 or 3 times his distribution against Benfica wasn't great. He was hardly the only one, but his distribution wasn't great. And again today, when he get it closed down there, his first touch wasn't the best, which gave the Hibs forward the opportunity. Is that going to be a problem? And is that something that is in any way we should be concerned about? Is that going to be a problem for us with the style we play? Or am I simply just trying to find things to put on the agenda to talk about tonight?
I think for a team that likes to play the ball out the back, it is going to be one of these things that will have a few, hearts in a mouth moments. And tonight was certainly one of them, because it's very uncharacteristic that he takes as heavy and bad a touch as he did. I think that was coupled with him desperately trying to get in our faces a little bit. And for the most part, I think we've actually played round that kind of press quite well.
Yeah.
You've got to take into account, we've just come back from a 2-2 draw away in Portugal. Legs are still going to be heavy, but I think it is something that we do need to keep a bit of an eye on. And to be honest, I think we have been quicker and a bit better this year about changing it up from playing it short at the back to actually going a bit longer. I think the really disappointing, I'm a big fan of him, the really disappointing thing for me tonight, again, was Dessa's lack of being able to hold the ball up. And that then didn't really give us an out. So I think that makes it, you need to play out the back a little bit better. Otherwise, you're just going to give possession back to the opposition. So I think we can forgive Super Jack Butland on this occasion for the hairy moment that he gave us, but it's definitely not the strongest part of his game. But he showed what he could do with a free kick that Hibs got, and made a really, really good save at that point. And again in Lisbon, as we spoke about on Friday, a couple of cracking saves there to that. So as long as he keeps the ball at the back of the net, we can forgive him the odd wee heavy touch, as long as that doesn't cost us a goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more with you. As I said, I was just curious to know what other people thought. Sterling, John Sterling has fast become a favourite of mine. He is, his style of play, he kind of plays football with a smile on his face. His powerful running, his ability to adapt to different positions. He's become a player that has very quickly become a big favourite of mine. And he went off with what looked like a hamstring problem. I haven't heard anything post-match. I don't imagine they can confirm that, but it certainly looked like a hamstring. And it's a second hamstring injury in a few weeks. Cortez obviously going off, and then it looks like he's going to be out for a while with it. So a couple of questions for you. How big a loss is Sterling? I mean, you're losing. He was on the right wing tonight, so we're losing a right winger, a left winger, a centre forward, a centre midfielder, a right midfielder, left midfielder, and a auxiliary fullback. Probably could play centre half as well. I have a feeling he drives the coach to and from the games. But I mean, joking aside, how big a loss is Sterling, because his, let's just say his ability to play in many positions has been very helpful in recent weeks as other players have gone. And should we be concerned about this being the second hamstring? Hamstrings used to be things that football players, got injuries to quite regularly. But I have to say, I kind of felt it was a thing in the past with Rangers that we hadn't really got players who were coming down with hamstring injuries, and didn't feel like something that happened terribly often. To have two in recent weeks, is that just coincidence, or is that point more to conditioning, to what we're doing in training just now, the warm ups? I don't know. Is it connected to that, or should we it's just one of these things?
Somebody said that he'd had some ice on it after the Benfica game. So whether it is a case of he's been playing on the edge a little bit, and whether risk to doing some more damage. And to be honest, it was one of those ones where I don't think he immediately went down with the pain. So whether he's felt it a little bit and decided to call the medical staff over to get himself off to not do any further damage, we'll need to wait and see. I think Clement has alluded to some of that stuff previously, where again it sounds like he's questioned really what we did do in pre-season in order to get some of these players ready for the length of season and the amount of work that's doing. He's spoken about the onus for players to take some responsibility for this as well, using things like the cryo chamber, making sure that the recovery is on point. I think it is at the back end of the season, playing a lot of football, that kind of midweek, weekend cycle that the players get into, there are going to be things that do go pop eventually. I think the Cortez one was really unlucky because obviously we'd got him from Lons and he'd just come into the team. The manager's kind of saying, we've not really got time to do the training that he wants to do to try and, address some of these issues that we're having. So it is just a case of, we need to suck it up. I think Sterling as a player is a massive loss just because of, I think, his attitude and his versatility. But for me, having a boy like him out on the right-hand side is pretty intimidating for that fullback when he's pressing you, because he's quick, he's strong, and a little mistake is something that he can pounce on, as we've seen when we're pressing some of the bigger games that we've had. So I think if he is out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, that will be a massive gap that we're going to have to fill. And just as we're starting to get the likes of Matondo back, it means that we're really down to the bare bones of a squad again. So we seem to be not really catching up on it. And I think Clement will be looking forward to that international break to try and see what we can do to, whether it's. I don't think he'll accelerate recovery from anything, because I think from what he said, he's a firm believer that he wants to make sure the players managed correctly back into the squad to avoid these types of recurrent breakdowns. And we've seen that with other players where they've maybe come in for 30, 40, 50 minutes at a time, and then he's been quite happy to then bring them back off. So, hopefully, if it is just a tweak, it might just need a little bit of rest, and we can then count on him for what's going to be really important after the international break, because that's going to be the nitty-gritty end of the season.
Aye.
I know we've got a big game on Thursday against Benfica, and we've got the Dundee game after that. But ultimately, that title race is kind of really hotting up after the international break.
Yeah, it's. I think Stelling's a huge loss. I really do. I mean, we're talking here like we know he's going to be out for a few weeks, and it may not be. He just maybe miss a couple of games. With the international break coming up, it may just be like you say. He didn't go down screaming in agony. But he also went down, and nothing really looked like it had happened to him. He signalled to the bench right away, so he clearly knew that. It wasn't something he could play on with. So I guess we'll just have to see. But I think he's a big loss. I think he brings a lot to that squad, and he brings a lot to the team. Whenever we play him, his powerful running, he must be a nightmare to defend against. Anytime you see him and a player come together, the other player just bounces off him. It's incredible. The physique of the guy, and just the strength. It's quite remarkable to watch. He's a young player, he's an inexperienced player, and you can't help but feel that Clement is kind of moulding him into something special. So it is a real shame.
Yeah.
Just before we go on, Robert, I just need to talk about one of our other sponsors, or our only other sponsor, Football Prizes, and they've a wonderful competition that we'd like to just tell you about. It's a chance to win what they're calling a premium Rangers competition. It's a Paul Gascoigne signed and custom LED framed Rangers shirt with inbuilt television. So I don't know what that looks like. I can't actually quite picture what that looks like, but it does sound quite something. It's a one of a kind. It's got, as I said, Paul Gascoigne signed Rangers shirt. It's got a built-in LED lights and a little television showing his Paul Gascoigne's Ibrox highlights. It does sound really quite something. If you're not familiar with Football Prizes, there are only 299 tickets, and it's £3.95 a ticket. The draw will be done on Friday the 22nd of March. Competition ends on the 21st of March. So if you're interested in getting that, it really does sound quite something. It's curious to see what that would look like. And it's certainly, I'm kind of hoping it will be up behind you, the next time we do this show, Robert. Hopefully you're going to then buy about 100 tickets yourself. And we'll all have a chance to see what that looks like. Sticking with the game, sticking with the Hibs game, we came out for the second half, we went 1-0 at half time. I think that was a fair reflection of the game. I think we were the better team, as I said. But Hibs came out in the second half, and they put us under a bit of pressure, as you would expect the home team to do. They came out and had a go. And it felt like a cup tie. It did feel like a cup tie. They had that, I don't know who that guy is up front. The guy with a kind of man bun thing going on.
I think was he not one of the players they got from Bournemouth?
Is he? I don't know.
I'm sure.
I have to say, outside of a couple of players, I just thought that Hibs team were all strangers to me. There was a lot of guys in there I were not familiar with, and I certainly wasn't familiar with him. And he's one of these ones where you thought he's nearly good. He would nearly be, do a couple of nice things and then it would just kind of peter out. But he had his free kick, which Butland saved with. I thought it was a Hollywood save myself. I thought Butland should have held that, frankly. But anyway, Butland made the save, and that was quite nice. And then really, I think the game turned on two sending off. So the first sending off, it was for Obita, and it was a second booking. And surely he can't have any complaints about that, because frankly, he should have been sent off for his push on McCausland when McCausland was going off injured. Apart from being just a horrible thing to do, it just showed that his clearly was losing his discipline. I thought it was interesting. I thought they brought Matondo's on to actually to target him. Matondo's on to get him booked. And sure enough, he didn't last too long once Matondo came on. They could have no complaints about that, surely. It was an absolute stonewall second yellow.
Well, of course they're going to have complaints. That any decision that goes in favour of Rangers is going to come with complaints. I think the interesting thing for me is what you say. And again, people watching Viaplay will be surprised that Neil Lennon is the voice of reason in this situation. First of all, as you say, McCausland is coming off the pitch with a physio, and the boy 2 or 3 times has pushed them to try and get them to go a little bit quicker. Now, the one thing that you can clearly see is the referee goes to Joe Newell to say to him, you need to get him to calm down because he's already been booked. And 2 minutes later, he flies, he kind of puts an arm out. And for me, you've seen them giving his bookings and you haven't. But I think with the added context of what had happened with McCausland, he's left the referee with a decision to make. Yeah. And ultimately, if the referee's already given him a warning, then he's got no arguments. He's just got to keep the head. And I think, for me, I don't think you can have any complaints about that. We would be absolutely raging if that was a Ridvan or a Tav that had done that, and with all that added context. So in isolation, if that was the only thing that had happened after half time, I would think that was probably very harsh to be a second yellow, to be honest. But not when you add in the fact that he's over trying to push McCausland and the physio off and getting himself heated up, and the referee then telling the captain of the team to have a word with him to calm him down. And, again, this is where referees ultimately need to set the stall out, because they kind of lose control of the game a little bit. And I think, we'll talk about what happened in a minute, but I think that's definitely what happened with the next kind of 5 minutes, as the ref kind of lost it a little bit, and the Hibs players just absolutely lost it after that.
I had some sympathy for the referee because Hibs were rough. Hibs' style of football today was, it was physical. They were aiming to put Rangers off their game. There was a real physicality to Hibs today. I hesitate to say it was kind of un-Hibs-like, but I always think Hibs as a team, whether they're a good team or a bad team, and I've seen both types of Hibs teams over the years, they've always been teams that have had guys who can play football. They've always had 2 or 3 guys in their team who can play football. Now, I don't know if because, Boyle went off, I actually didn't see the incident with Boyle, but somebody was at the game and texted me to say that Boyle didn't move. From the minute he went down, literally didn't move, and they were genuinely concerned as to his health. So hopefully he's certainly reports after the match that he's conscious and talking and he's okay. So I certainly hope that is the case. I think we would all feel that way about a professional player. But him aside, they didn't really have anybody in the team that looked like he was a kind of proper decent football player. It was a physical Hibs team. And I had some sympathy for the referee because I think that was Hibs' game plan. I don't know their manager all that well. I'm not familiar with what he did at other clubs, but I thought their game plan was to try and not kick us off the park, but certainly intimidate us physically. Put us
if you look
off
at the first 20 seconds, if you look at the first 20 seconds of the game, I don't know who the Hibs player was. Dessers is coming across, bang, straight into him as we've kicked off. Puts him on his backside. Yeah. Dessers is there looking, going, well, did you not see that? That was what they wanted to do. I think you're right. They wanted to try and intimidate us with the physicality, but ultimately, that only goes so far. Yeah, there's not going to be many teams that will lie down to that sort of stuff these days, and certainly not this Rangers team. No, as we've seen them come on.
No team that wants to win the league can be intimidated off the park like that. It isn't going to happen. But I was surprised that was Hibs' tactics. So I don't think Obito can have any complaints at all. And I don't understand how anybody could have any complaints about that sending off. The second sending off, Mariah Welsh, another player I was unfamiliar with before today, was a straight red. The Hibs dugout were very angry. Hibs manager get booked. But I mean, VAR looked at it. I have to say, first viewing, I thought it was an absolute stonewall red. I thought he's off the ground, he's out of control. I don't know how badly he caught Lundstrom, but it doesn't matter. So the first viewing, I thought absolute stonewall red. Watched it from a couple of angles at different speeds, and still thought it was a stonewall red. I don't understand why any of them had any complaints. Now, I think their complaint was, I didn't catch Lundstrom as badly as he's making out, as if that's some kind of mitigating factor. But I think, for me, anyway, and I can only speak for myself, and you may have a very different opinion. For me, it was symptomatic of Hibs completely losing the place. Their discipline went, which was great for us. I'm just glad no one gets seriously injured in that kind of 3-minute spell where they lost it. But that was, the game was over at that point. But I mean, what did you feel, having seen it a few times, having seen it from different angles? Did you think it was a harsh sending off?
No. You'll have people bringing this up. Say, he didn't touch him. The rules clearly state that there doesn't have to be contact. He's jumped with 2 feet off the ground at a pace that if he did connect with Lundstrom, then you're looking at a potentially serious injury there. And I think that was indicative of Hibs just losing it for that period of time. For me, I think in real time, I thought it looked a bad one, and I thought it looked like a red because I thought he did catch Lundstrom. The replays show that he didn't catch him with his boot, but he still went through him.
Yeah.
And at the speed and pace he's going at, you can have no... He's just launched himself into that tackle.
It was a crazy tackle to launch yourself into. Why would you launch yourself into that tackle in that part of the pitch? To what end? Guy had just completely lost all discipline.
And again, a man that just doesn't want to do Rangers any favours. I think Lennon kind of touched on it towards the end as well. The player has left himself open to giving the referee a decision to make. And, VAR have looked at it. It'll be the big Masons conspiracy again that we've got 2 men sent off to help us to get to a semi-final. But ultimately, I don't think you could complain with either sending off. I think that's where you've got to put the responsibility onto the players. If I was a Hibs fan, I would be angry at their loss of composure, because ultimately that's what's cost them the opportunities to still have 11 men on the pitch.
Absolutely.
When you take a step back, it's nothing to do with Fs. It's their own attitude that's lost it.
And with 11 men on the pitch, the longer the game went on, let's be honest, the more fatigue that Rangers would show. There's no doubt that would have happened in that game. With Sterling off injured, McCausland off injured, then inevitably Rangers would be showing fatigue. It was Hibs' best chance was to stay in the game as long as they could, because they would get chances. Let's be honest, they would get set pieces, they'd get something, frankly, it made the last 15-20 minutes an awful lot easier than it might have been. So that's fine. We're in full agreement. It was crazy stuff. So down to 9 men, the match was pretty much over, I think. But we still needed that second goal. I know I didn't feel fully at ease until that second goal went in. And it was Silva that scored it, and I thought he took it really well. He seems to be enjoying this kind of wide left position that he's been playing in now. This kind of 2-3 games he's played there, and I kind of get the impression he's quite enjoying it. I can't decide if he's just enjoying starting or if he's just enjoying not playing the centre forward role, but playing a kind of secondary role. So I thought he had a decent game today. I thought he had a decent game on Thursday night. I thought he was one of our better players on Thursday night. I thought he was today. He was effective at times today again. He took his goal well. What was your view on the goal and kind of Silva's contribution recently? Now that he seems to have settled in a wee run of games.
I think you can tell he's a quality footballer. First of all, I think Thursday night he was brilliant. I said on the Friday pod that I criticised him a little bit just because there was a couple of times where he tried a fancy wee flick that gave the ball away. Tonight there was none of that. He was very workmanlike, but when we needed a moment of quality, he stepped up with it and put the ball away well after that little turn and finish. I think he does seem to be playing well coming in off that left-hand side, and I can't for the life of me remember if that's actually where he was playing at his previous loan. He might have been playing off the left as well. So I think it's great to have, again, another player with that type of versatility where he can play in a number of different positions, especially with the injuries that we've got, because, ultimately it is a case of, can we just get 11 fit bodies that can start? And it's looking, hopefully, there's positive news coming out of the club around Sema. Cantwell shouldn't be too far away. So, reinforcement should be coming for this run-in. But, he's been really good in that left-hand side role. He's been very disciplined. I think him and Ridvan have got a really good little relationship building now between the two of them. They're playing quite well and quite nicely together. And hopefully that will get better. But yeah, he's doing a really good job. He's been great. And unusually for Rangers, I think the majority of January signings that we brought in have actually really contributed since they've joined the club. Sadly, Cortez hasn't been able to show us what else he can do because of the injury. But Silva's come in and is scoring goals and being involved in assisting goals. Diamandi's come in and I think looks a cracking player. Yeah. With a couple of goals. So it looks like if we can keep 11 bodies fit, then they're happy to play anywhere at the moment, and we're going to need that, to be honest, because Silva's popped up with a goal tonight, and we're really lacking in that striking front, to be honest. So we need them.
Yeah, no, we are. It's the weakest part of the team. I don't have any doubt of that. I've been pleased with Silva. As I said, I think he's made that position his own just now. But like you say, I don't think he's got a huge amount of competition for it currently. Matondo's come back in, and ultimately he's going to get game time with McCausland and Sema and Cortez out. Then ultimately, if Sterling's out for a while, then there's no doubt that he's going to get game time. He'll probably, I don't know, he's in the Euro squad. But if he is, he'll get game time, I think, on Thursday as well. So, fingers crossed. Okay, let's look ahead. We're in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, which is always nice. I have some happy memories of semi-finals of Scottish Cups. Draws made tomorrow night after the Hearts Morton game. Who do you fancy? It's Aberdeen, Celtic, Hearts and Morton. You've got a choice. Who are you choosing, Robert? Which one would you like?
Well, if Morton could beat Hearts, then we'd obviously want Morton, to be honest. For me, it's one of these ones. Aberdeen are going to play it like it's a cup final. Hearts are going to be out for revenge. To be honest, you might want to have Celtic, just given their performances, and I don't particularly think their fans will be happy after today when the bottom club score a couple of goals when they haven't really done that all season against their team. I think for me, it doesn't really matter who you play, if I'm brutally honest. For me, these are teams that you're going to have to either beat in the semi or the final anyway. You anticipate Hearts are going to get past Morton. So, Aberdeen or Hearts and say beating Celtic in the final to seal the treble would be nice.
Yeah, I think I'd rather avoid Celtic in the semi, because that obviously then would be the big game, and I think we'll have enough big games in the run up. The way the season's going, another big game. I know a semi-final Scottish Cup's always a big game, but let's be honest, a semi-final against Aberdeen, particularly with the form they're in just now, is a different game than a semi-final against Celtic. And just even with the pressure and everything that goes along with that, I think I would far rather get to the final and meet whoever there. But if we get Celtic, then we get Celtic. That's we have to start beating them. Yeah, that has to happen at some point soon. Ultimately, Clement and what he's done so far has been fantastic, and he's got us to the stage where we are just now, and we're all enjoying our football, and we're enjoying what he's doing with the club, what he's been doing with the players. Ultimately, we need to start winning games against Celtic. He's only had one chance at that, and we kind of fluffed our lines that day. He's going to get at least two more chances this season. And they're going to be important games. So, maybe a cup semi-final against Celtic is the one that changes things. I was at the game God knows what year it was. Cup semi-final at Hampden against Celtic. It was Martin O'Neill's first season. Advocates last season or season before his last season, I guess. And it was the first time I became aware of Neil Lennon. Can't really been aware of Neil Lennon before that. Neil Lennon was a kind of vague player in England, and he'd come up, and he was instrumental in them beating us that night. He got Claudio Reyna sent off, and then he got Michael Moll sent off. Rangers just lost their discipline, and because of Lennon just was noising us up, getting in our face, playing right on the edge, but not going quite over it. And it was a shift in power that night. You know, Rangers had been the dominant team in Scotland for a decade, and there was a shift in power that night. It shifted. Henrik Larsson out-muscled. What was that boy called? Bob. What was his name? Bob Malcolm. That's the one. It was a big, strong lad, and he was out-muscled by Henrik Larsson at one of the goals. And they beat us 2-0 that night, or 2-1 or 2-0 that night. But it's one of these moments where you thought, something changed there. So semi-finals can be like that, and it's maybe this season's the semi-final where something changes in our way. We just go out there and we're just a better team. And
we've got that game in the 7th. That's the one we need to win. 7th of April.
We need to win that one.
We play them. If you don't beat Celtic, you don't win the league this year.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's key. And to be fair, I think Clement and the players know that as well. That they're fully aware of what they need to do, but they're going to worry about that game in the week running up to it. We've got Benfica on Thursday and Dundee, which are bigger games than that one at the moment, and I think that's a really good trait for us to have just now, because we don't want to get carried away looking too far forward.
Yeah,
we continue winning and grinding out results. Even when we're not playing our best, then when it gets to the end of the season, that's what makes you champions.
Yeah,
sometimes during Smith's series, who I absolutely loved as a manager, he instilled that in squads. The Burns Celtic were a better team than us, but we continually beat them because we knew what it took to win those matches. And I'd like to think that come the 7th, that'll take care of itself with this team. Assuming we've got 11 players to play.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm accepting the Burns team are a better team than us, but I know the point you're trying to make there now. I will not labour it. Looking ahead then to the Benfica game on Thursday, what's your approach on Thursday night? Bob, how would you approach this? I mean, obviously, understanding what the team is going to be, what the starting 11 is going to be. I think there's always certainly going to be changes being forced on us. I think Matondo then becomes. I think he's coming back into that team if Lawrence is fit. I think he'll be fit. I thought he looked a bit leggy in the second half today. I think McCausland. I don't know. For him to come on and then be taken off again, it's not a great look. So I think you have to assume that he's not going to be fit enough to start that game. So it looks like I would say Matondo's on a pretty decent chance of starting that game. I'm not expecting anyone else to come back from injury. I don't think Cantwell's going to be starting that game. He might make the bench, but he's not going to start that game. Do you see any other changes? Could you see us tinkering around, anything up his sleeve, or do you think we just go with? Do you think that team today is our best team? With probably Matondo coming in on the right hand side, probably on the right hand side, or do you see any other changes being made?
I'd be very surprised, because I don't think there's many more options available from what we've got just now. Unless there is a player that is closer than we all think, and is going to make themselves available. I think you're pretty much looking at that, and you're right. Maybe Sterling drops out because of the injury, and Matondo comes in to start. I think while it was a great result, we've still got to be mindful that Benfica have got some cracking players in their team. Yeah. Although one of them shouldn't be playing, which we didn't cover on the Friday pod. But I think both myself and Craig are mindful. If anybody wants to see my opinion, then you can read my tweet. that I posted in that post match link. But yeah, he shouldn't be playing. But they've still got some really, really tidy players there. Rafa had a bit of an off night, but he's been scoring goals for fun in the Portuguese league. The young boy Neres looked the player,
didn't he?
And then I had Tav on toast for the first 15-20 minutes. So I think while we want to get on the front foot, we've also got to be mindful that they'll have a real attacking threat, and they'll also want to make a bit of a statement. Now, the great thing for us is this season, I don't think their away form's been too good. They scraped. I think they scraped the draw on Toulouse in the last round. So I don't think we've got anything to fear. I think you look at the way Clement's set up in Portugal, and we were clinical. We got a couple of chances, we scored a couple of goals, and actually, apart from a defensive mistake and a penalty that in the SPFL wouldn't have been given, that was the goals that they conceded. It's gonna take a mammoth effort from the team, but also from the support on Thursday.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important. The good thing is we hopefully don't need to worry about the Subway Loyal, because it's a really early kick-off.
Yeah, they shouldn't need to worry about missing their bus or their train or whatever it is they're on off to catch. They'll all be home in time, catch Coronation Street omnibus or whatever it is they're after. I agree entirely. And I was actually going to say too, he's mentioned this a few times recently about the support. Now, I've been going to Rangers a long time. The home support and the away support are different. I've known that since I was a teenager, that they're different. They react to things differently. They're different beasts. The home support at this stage of the last 16 of a European tournament, any European football after Christmas should still be so exciting for us. I'll never get used to us playing that kind of football. And, the home support should be up for it. And, we've shown in the past at this stage that just how good and how intimidating Ibrox can be. Clement's mentioned that a few times because, I don't know, that might not be the most popular thing to say, but I get the feeling he's a wee bit disappointed with the home support at times. I think the exodus at 81 minutes disappoints him, particularly when the team are performing well. I think there are still periods in the game where if it wasn't for the Union Bears and the ultras of these guys, there would be no noise in Ibrox. Even the games when there should be noise, where we should be up for it more, Ibrox has become very quiet. And on top of that, I think there still is at home, a couple of missed passes, a couple of kind of setbacks, and you hear the moans and the groans come out quite quickly. And look, that's just the Rangers support. In the end, Clement isn't going to change that. We've been like that for decades. But I think the point he's making, we should take that on board, because he clearly feels it does make a difference to the players. There's probably some players in that team. There's probably some players in that team for whom playing in front of the Rangers support is nerve-wracking. I don't mean the Benfica team, I mean the Rangers team. It's a heavy jersey, the Rangers jersey, and I suspect there's some of them. I think Lammers couldn't do it. I think Lammers just was terrified because, I think it was too much for him. Dessers has won a few people round, but at home, a couple of miscontrols, a couple of times where he doesn't do it. You'll hear the moans and the groans. You'll hear the sighs or the jeer. That's going to happen, and that happens to better Rangers players than Dessers, frankly. So it's incumbent on us to, this might be our last European game this season. It's incumbent on us to go A, and enjoy it, and B, let's get behind them. There's no reason why we shouldn't. There's no reason.
Absolutely.
This is a game we could win. I think we go into this game knowing that Benfica are a good team with some good players who, if they click, it could be difficult for us. But at the same time, we know that we can match them. That's 3 times now we've matched them in recent years. There's not a lot between the teams. They play a different style of football. They've got some lovely, creative players, but I don't think they've got the best defence in the world. I thought that defensively they looked a little bit suspect at times. And I think we can create chances against them. However the game's going, I think we can create chances against them in the style of football we play. And it's the fact that we're even there at this stage. I mean, how quickly we forget how we all felt back in October. The fact that we're even there, go along and enjoy it. Make the most of it.
I think you're right with Clement's comments, because it's not just him that's mentioned it. The players have mentioned it as well. Obviously Dessers loving hearing his song. That type of support does give them a lift, especially if you look at the run of games that we've had. Thursday, tough game at Easter Road today, going back to Ibrox to play against a top European opponent. Some of those players are running on empty just now because of how many games they're having to play. Yeah. That little bit of support, the noise from the Ibrox crowd, getting behind that team will help, give them an extra 5-10%. And I think that's why Clement keeps making such a big noise about it. He's came from Monaco where there was none of that.
Aye.
And it really does impact the players. So, but like you've said, Ibrox can be a very hostile place to play in a Rangers jersey if there are a couple of those misplaced passes. And I think that's where it is up to us. We need to make a decision that actually will go in and support the team and maybe bite our tongue if we miss a chance or we put a misplaced pass. Easier said than done, but I think this team under Clement has earned that right, because they've done everything that's been asked of them so far.
They're overachieving. Let's be honest, we are overachieving just now. If you dissect that team, the squad he's got, and dissect that team, we are overachieving just now. Any team that's top of the league with Dessers as a number 9 all the way through the season is a miracle of football. And I know he's been playing better, and I know he's been, and even today, the moment today where he had that turn and shot, I didn't think, I thought he did everything he could. Keeper had a good save. But he's still not, he's still not the number 9 we need. If we had a number 9 who was more mobile, even the cameos we get from Roof just now, you see, that's what they could do. That's what we could do if we had you at number 9. Yeah. But you're right, and that's my feeling as well. As it's up to us. We can make a difference here, both in terms of inspiring our players, but also I think Glasgow, Ibrox could be an intimidating place. Yeah. I think these guys coming to Glasgow, they know they're coming to an intimidating atmosphere. We're on top of the pitch. I think we maybe underestimate just what we can bring to bear. Right,
last question. So many. Sorry, I was going to say, you've heard so many comments over the years from other players that when they're in that tunnel and they hear the noise, they're kind of like, wow, what the hell are we walking into here? And that's the type of atmosphere we need to create on Thursday.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Look, last question of the night. Two big games coming up before we get a wee break. Benfica and Dundee. Give me your predictions, Bob. How do you see them going?
I'm going to be positive. I think we've got 2 wins in this. I think sometimes the football night might not be pretty, especially on Thursday night. I think some of that is going to be maybe backs to the wall a little bit, because Benfica are going to try and come with a point to prove. But like you say, we've got nothing to fear there. We took the lead twice against them in Portugal, and thought we deserved to walk away with a lead in the tie. Dundee should be a game that we've got enough for. It's all it all really does depend on who's fit, who we can put out, and what the team lineups are going to be. But I'm going to be positive and say 2 wins. I'm not going to give you any score predictions, but I think we've got enough to get over the line in both games.
That's what I like to hear, Robert. I like to hear that positivity at the end of it. Listen, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate you coming along. I appreciate you helping me out with the show tonight. That was very kind of you. I hope you enjoyed it. Even though I didn't know what day it was or what month it was at the start. That's the danger of doing one of these when the game finished about an hour and a half ago. You decide, I'll use an old agenda and I'll just write over the top of it. Take a note, change the date on the top of it if you're going to read it. So listen, thanks for coming along. I do appreciate you giving up your time tonight, Bob. And if I can just remind everybody that wherever you are watching us tonight, we are also available on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and of course Spotify. There will be a podcast, or certainly is a plan for a podcast on Friday night, and it's Craig and Alex, although there will be obviously late fitness tests on both of them to see if they will make Friday. Keep an eye on the Gersnet Twitter feed for details, for links to the sponsors, and also any other preview or post-match pods that might spring up. And of course, the best way to make sure that you don't miss anything is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where all the pods are published first. So lastly, we're in a semi-final. Bob's sitting there. I know there's a semi coming on, which is not something that always happens on a Sunday night. But he did tell us early on that he'd had a good day and his wife was happy. So that's great news. Listen, good night from me. Good night from Bob. And thanks for watching.